Hey there, food explorers! Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of food bioprocessing, specifically the magic of fermentation. You see, fermentation isn't just a trendy word thrown around in fancy kitchens. It's a natural process that has been transforming our food for thousands of years. Think about it. Fermentation gives us tangy yogurt, bubbly sourdough, savory cheeses, and even the rich aroma of coffee. It's a fascinating dance between microorganisms like bacteria and yeast and our favorite foods. In simple terms, fermentation is like a microscopic party where these tiny organisms transform sugars and starches into acids, gases, and other flavorful compounds. This not only enhances the taste and texture of food, but also helps preserve it. So buckle up as we unravel the mysteries of traditional and modern fermentation methods and discover how this ancient technique continues to shape the way we eat and experience food. Let's kick things off with the OG of fermentation, the spontaneous kind. This is as old school as it gets, folks. Imagine our ancestors noticing that leaving food out in certain conditions led to interesting and often delicious changes. Spontaneous fermentation relies on the wild yeasts and bacteria naturally present in the environment and on the food itself. Think about it. Grapes on the vine have a dusting of yeast on their skin. This method is all about embracing the unpredictable. The flavors and textures of spontaneously fermented foods can vary depending on the surrounding environment, the types of microbes present, and even the weather. Take sourdough bread, for instance. Each sourdough starter is unique, carrying a blend of wild yeasts and bacteria that reflect its environment. That's why a sourdough loaf from San Francisco will taste different from one made in London. Now let's fast forward a bit and talk about cultured fermentation. This is where things get a little more controlled. Instead of relying solely on wild microbes, we give specific strains of yeast or bacteria a head start. Think of it like inviting a well-behaved guest to a party. You know what to expect, and you can guide the experience a bit more. This method allows for more consistency in flavor and texture, which is especially important for large-scale food production. Yogurt is a great example of cultured fermentation. Specific bacteria strains are added to milk, transforming it into the tangy, creamy goodness we all know and love. The same goes for cheeses, beers, and many other fermented delights. As our understanding of fermentation grew, so did our ability to harness its power on a larger scale. Welcome to the world of industrial fermentation. This is where things get really interesting. We're talking about using specialized equipment and controlled environments to produce massive quantities of fermented products. Remember those microscopic parties we talked about? Well, industrial fermentation is like throwing a massive rave for microbes, complete with state-of-the-art sound systems and disco balls. Well, sort of. Industrial fermentation allows us to meet the demands of our ever-growing population and ensure consistent quality in our favorite fermented products. At the heart of industrial fermentation are bioreactors, sophisticated vessels designed to provide the perfect environment for microbial growth and activity. Think of bioreactors as high-tech apartments for microbes, equipped with all the amenities they need to thrive: temperature control, oxygen regulation, and even nutrient delivery systems. These incredible machines allow us to precisely control the fermentation process, ensuring optimal conditions for our microbial friends to work their magic. Just like we have different tools for different cooking tasks, there are various types of fermenters, each suited for specific fermentation processes and products. Some fermenters are designed for batch fermentation, where everything is added at once and left to ferment for a set period. Others are built for continuous fermentation, where fresh ingredients are continuously added and fermented product is removed. The choice of fermenter depends on factors like the type of microorganism used, the desired product, and the scale of production. Imagine you've created an amazing new fermented beverage in your kitchen. It's a hit with friends and family, and you're ready to share it with the world. This is where scaling up comes in. Scaling up is the process of taking a fermentation process from a small experimental scale to a much larger industrial level. It's a bit like adapting a recipe for a dinner party to feed a whole stadium. This involves careful optimization of fermentation parameters, meticulous equipment selection, and rigorous quality control measures to ensure that the final product retains its desired characteristics. Once the fermentation party is over, we're left with a mixture of fermented product, microbial cells, and other byproducts. That's where downstream processing comes in. This crucial step involves separating, purifying, and concentrating the desired product from the fermentation broth. Think of it as tidying up after the party and packaging the delicious leftovers. Downstream processing techniques can include filtration, centrifugation, extraction, and drying, depending on the specific product and its intended use.